Good afternoon and welcome everyone to our Bright Futures webinar. We're so glad to have you. Thank you, all of the students and parents who are on with us, and you've been putting your names, grade levels, excuse me, and schools in the chat. Please continue to do so for those that just joined. We want to make sure we know who's here, from what part of the school district, what part of the county you're in, and what grade level you're in as well. My name is Tron Lepet, Operational Lead for Bridge to Life, your local college access network. If you haven't followed Bridge to Life on Instagram, if you're on Instagram or any other social media platform, I'll put that in the chat for you right now, which is how we're going to communicate this evening. So just call this a little practice as if you need it, right? But our handle is at Bridge, the number 2, Life SFL. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram, etc. So please follow us if you haven't. We are your local college access network. We're nestled right in between Broward County Public Schools and all of your post-secondary options. Our job is to help fill the gaps, find the opportunities, find the gaps, innovate, create, and see how we can work together to make your careers and your post-secondary journey as successful as possible. That being said, I'm going to stop talking. We're here to learn more about Bright Futures, and we have, in my opinion, the Bright Futures guru herself, the all-knowing, wonderful, amazing, and loving Bridget Lynn. Thank you so much for joining us. Bridget Lynn is Brace Advisor at McFadder Technical High School, and we appreciate her giving her time this afternoon. Bridget, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Awesome.
Looking forward to the presentation.
Fantastic. So without any further ado, have your questions ready. Again, please use the chat. If you've yet to put your school name and grade level in the chat, also please do that. Again, we just want to know who's here with us. And without any further ado, I'll pass the mic over to Bridget. It's all yours.
Thank you. As Tron mentioned, I am the Brace or College Advisor at McFadder Technical High School, and I have been there for 26 years now. So I've got a little experience under my belt, and I believe I'm fairly well-versed in Bright Futures. But there are some aspects to Bright Futures that I'm not as well-versed in others because I've only worked at McFadder, and some of the things that might apply to your school don't apply to our students. But I will go through there and I will point out some aspects that might apply to you and might not apply to my students. So let's get started here. Bright Futures, some of the topics we're going to hit on is initial eligibility requirement and evaluation process and award nominations, and then the Florida financial aid application. This is the home screen for Bright Futures. When you pull up Bright Futures, if you want to Google Bright Futures or Florida Student Financial Aid.org, you will come up with a homepage like this. And it's got a lot of key information here. So if you don't understand something that I'm talking about tonight, you could always refer back to this. And it's always a good idea to refer to this page because at any point, legislation can change. And I don't want you to be relying on something that might be old news. So you could always come here and get information like the initial eligibility. It explains all of the different things. It's a huge handbook and all of the different information that you need for these scholarships. There's some small flyers here that I will show you when I pull up some pages that show you there's basically 4 different Bright Future scholarships that you could apply for, and some other very pertinent information here. So initial eligibility. The general eligibility is that you have to be a U.S. citizen or a Florida resident and a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. And that's determined by the post-secondary institution. It's not the high school that you're attending. It will be the college that the child or the student is attending that determines that. The student in their senior year after October 1st will complete the Florida financial aid application, which is also known as the FFAA. And I know that this gets very confusing because we also have the federal or free application for federal student aid, which is FAFSA, which this acronyms are very similar. So it could be confusing, but one is for Florida money and the FAFSA is for federal money. The application will open up October 1st every year, and the seniors should do it after October 1st of their senior year. And they actually have through August 31st after their high school graduation to complete this. Students have to earn a standard high school diploma or the equivalent, which I guess would be a GED, another thing that I'm not very well versed in, but it would be a standard high school diploma, either from a public or private school. Students cannot receive money if they've been found guilty of a felony charge. They have to be enrolled in a degree or certificate seeking student at an eligible Florida institution. This does not transfer out of the state of Florida, so it has to be a Florida-based institution. And they have to enroll at least 6 non-remedial semester hours in order to receive the funding. There are 4 different types of awards. The Florida Academic Scholar is considered the highest award. Then you have the Florida Medallion Scholar Award, the Gold Seal CAPE, and the Gold Seal Vocational. And in terms of money that is given to the students, it's in that order ranking as far as the most beneficial to the least, but the students are reviewed for all of these and will receive whatever the highest award is. So here's a chart that shows the Florida Academic and the Florida Medallion Scholars, what's required. Both of these I would consider the better awards because you could use them whether you're attending a state college like Broward College or you're attending one of our state universities, FAU, FIU, University of Florida, or if you're going to a Florida-based private institution such as Stetson or University of Miami or University of Tampa. As long as it's a Florida-based institution, this money can be used at that institution. In order to meet the criteria, the Bright Futures is going to recalculate a GPA, and they're going to look at 4 English, 4 math, 3 science, 3 social science, and 2 foreign language. If a student has extras of any of these, because some of our students are already on their 6th or 7th math, Bright Futures will look at the 4 best math grades. They have a weight system, but their weight system is different than Broward County. It's different than unweighted. It's weighted, but it's either unweighted or for them, the course is either unweighted or it gets the same weight, whether it's in AP, honors, IB, ACE, any of those. It's if weighted is weighted, one weight. There's no difference in weights. So for the Florida Academic, when you recalculate the GPA, you have to have a 3.5 GPA. If you're a Broward County student and you're wondering what GPA this would equate to, it would be similar to your academic core. That's the closest approximation. It's not going to be an absolute, but that would be the best GPA to look at. You also have to have test scores. So depending on what grade level you are, if you're a senior, you have to meet the 24-25 statistics here. If you're a junior, you would meet the 25-26. Currently, seniors are required to have a 1340 SAT, 96 on the CLT, or 29 on the ACT. They will mix and match the best subscores. So if you wanted to test 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, they're going to find your best subscores in each of those tests and put it together for a new composite score. And they will look at whichever of these tests you do better on. You don't have to meet all 3 of these test requirements. You just have to meet one of the test requirements. And then the highest award requires either 100 hours of service or 100 paid hours. So Bright Futures a few years back allowed students who have to work to help support themselves or help support their families and don't have the opportunity to earn the service hours that another student might be able to do. They've allowed them to use the work hours in place of the 100 service hours. Keep in mind that Broward County still requires 40 service hours for graduation. So if you're going to add work hours, it has to be an additional number of hours to equal 100. So if you have 40 service hours, you would need 60 work hours. You don't need an additional 100 hours, and you need one or the other. You don't need to have 100 service hours and 100 work hours. The Florida, or for the Florida Academic Scholar, I do want to point out that the juniors, the class of 26 graduates, they only have to have a 95 on the CLT and a 1330 on the SAT. Florida Medallion, you need a 3.0 recalculated GPA. The 24-25 graduates need to have a 25 ACT, 84 CLT, and a 1210 on the SAT, while the 25-26 graduates need 24 ACT, 82 CLT, or an 1190 on the SAT. That requires 75 service hours, but if we're going to use work hours, it's always going to be 100 work hours that you're going to need to replace that. Student report cards. Public school students get report cards in 11th and 12th grade, and it's the district will send your grades to Tallahassee for the Bright Futures review after the report cards. Your GPA, like I mentioned before, your GPA, you've got an unweighted GPA, a weighted GPA, and an academic core. It's not going to be the same GPA that you're going to see for Bright Futures. It might be very similar, but it's not always the same. So this talks about the weighting system that they have. If your students have any of the following: honors, dual enrollment, advanced placement, pre-IB, IB, pre-ACE, ACE, all of those are weighted the same. So it's either unweighted or the same weight, which is really for each half credit, it's a 0.25 or a 0.50 for a full credit. Also, college entrance exams, everybody wonders, how do they choose the testing numbers that you need to meet? And it's based on an algorithm, I guess you could say, but they research and see how many students would qualify for the scholars based on SAT and ACT scores, and then they match that. And then every year they're going to publish whatever new scores are for the next junior class. This is something that was new to, I want to say, a year or so ago. Students have through August 31st after they graduate to meet the test score requirement. They have to meet GPA and community service prior to graduation, but they have through August 31st after they graduate. So technically, if like our students are graduating in May, there's still a June SAT, a June and July ACT. They could take that after graduation, but now they're even saying, as long as you test before August 31st, we will still use that towards your Bright Futures calculation. I always encourage my students to send their test scores to at least one of the Florida state universities, because it is, once the student gives permission for a state university to have their test scores, they are in essence telling Tallahassee they have permission to view it for Bright Futures purposes. And that helps link the test scores to the student records. So it's a good idea to have the scores sent to one of the state universities. Even if the student isn't necessarily planning on applying to a state university, it's good to have the scores sent there. Tron has a hand up.
Hey, so Bridget, I just really quick, we have one question in the chat, and I think because of the size of the audience, we'll just kind of field it in between.
Sure.
Sometimes. So we have one question: would seniors have to wait until they graduate to apply to Bright Futures?
No, and I'm going to get to that. You're going to complete a Florida financial aid application, and that is open now. I've had all of my seniors complete theirs. So this is the perfect time for you to do it. And actually, if you could do it today, because I'm going to get further in the slides and you will see that there are some scholarships that it's not just Bright Futures you're actually giving permission to be evaluated for. It's multiple Florida grants and scholarships. And some of those are being reviewed on April 1st, which is today. So if you haven't already done the Florida financial aid application, I would hop on right after this and do the application so that you could be reviewed for those extra items. So good. So next. Service hours, and this talks about it, that they're allowing the work hours in place of service hours, but we still need that minimum 40 community service hours to graduate from a Broward County school. And if you're going to use work hours in addition, we always have to make it a full 100 hours at the end using the work. So this is really something interesting, and this is where I'm not 100% familiar with all of the aspects of this chart. This shows that if you're a National Merit Scholar, a National Hispanic Recognition Awardee, or you have an ACE or IB diploma, you do not need to meet specific test scores in order to receive this award. So you have to earn the diploma before high school graduation, but I don't think you find out until later after you graduate whether you actually got that diploma. But if you're a national merit finalist, your test scores when you took the PSAT, that eliminated the need for it now. National Hispanic Recognition. This is kind of a tricky thing. I don't know how every school manages their recognition programs, but College Board sent emails and certificates to a large group of students. And it started in, I believe, their 10th grade. I don't think it went back to 9th grade, but in 10th and 11th grade, when a student took the PSAT, they were evaluated as a National Hispanic Awardee, National Achievement Awardee, first generation. There was a few recognition programs that a student can get recognized for. If a student was recognized as a Hispanic scholar, they need to download their email that they received and the certificate that they received and send it to Bright Futures so that it alleviates the need for them to meet test scores. But they still need the same GPA that they would have need and the same service hours or work hours. Gold Seal CAPE Award is based on industry certification. And this is kind of tricky to explain. But if a student takes industry certifications, the industry certifications have different values. And if they get a value of 5 post-secondary credits, meaning 5 college credits can be earned by the industry certifications that articulate to college, the Gold Seal CAPE doesn't ask for a GPA. They don't ask for a test score. They just need you to complete 30 service hours or the 100 work service combined and meet the 5 post-secondary credits through the CAPE industry certification. Now, I will tell you at McFadder, we're a technical college and our students all take industry certification. And some certifications hold more weight. Our practical nursing students meet this criteria. Our drafting students meet this criteria. I can't speak for other schools and what kind of certifications they have, but it's not like if I have Adobe Illustrator as one, and if I have, I can't even think of some of the different ones, InDesign, it's not like one for each certification. Our ServSafe and Culinary gives 3 post-secondary credits, but students would need at least 2 more credits from something else to be able to earn this 5 credit Gold Seal CAPE award. It's through the funding is through career education and certificate programs. So it is for a career type program, which is an Associate of Science or Applied Science or a career certificate. I always point out to my students, and the reason why I have this highlighted in red is when you hear the term associate, you know that you have to start at the state college level, which would be a Broward College, Miami-Dade. You have to start at the state college level and earn an Associate of Science or Associate Applied Science. And then it is able to transfer for an eligible baccalaureate degree. So it would be 2 + 2. The eligible degree would probably be a Bachelor's of Science and a Bachelor's of Applied Science. But not every Associate of Science degree transfers. So this is kind of a tricky one to take advantage of, but it is there and it's because it's based on your industry certification and your career search, this is tied to a career program. The Gold Seal Vocational Award is one of the most restrictive awards that are there. It is designed, students have to achieve a 3.0 weighted GPA in their graduation requirements. So that would be a PE credit or HOPE. It would be geometry, algebra, biology, world history, American government, economics, the very specific courses that you need to graduate from Broward County, but they do weight it. They don't include non-elective courses. You need to have at least 3 full credits in a single career or technical education program. So if you're at a school that you got to try a little of this and try a little of that, you may not have 3 full credits in the same technical program. Where if you're at McFadden, Atlantic, or Sheridan, you would have this. Within those 3 credits, you have to have earned a 3.5 unweighted GPA, which means 2 A's and a B. And it's not in just any of your technical credits. It has to be specific course codes that they're matching to. So a 3.0 weighted in graduation courses, a 3.5 unweighted GPA, and 3 credits of the tech program. And then you have to meet minimum test scores. And this is through the SAT, the ACT, or the PERT exam. And then as far as service hours, we need 30 service hours or 100 work service hours. And this shows the testing requirements that you need for the Gold Seal Vocational. Also, if you look at these numbers, these are the numbers that are basically Board of Governors says you are college ready when you meet these scores. So if you wanted to go to a 4-year university, you basically need these minimums. It doesn't mean that if I have these minimums, I'm getting off an admission into the 4-year university, but this shows that you're capable of college level work. Oh, you know what? I wanted to point out too, something that I forgot. ACT, there is now an optional science section. ACT considers it optional. Colleges are not really sure what they're going to do. Is it going to be optional to them or not? Most likely it will be optional to them. But right now, I'm advising my students to not consider it option, keep taking it with the science section, because the rumor is that Bright Futures is going to require the science section. So you don't want to take the test without the science section and find out that it doesn't apply to your scholarship possibilities. But these are the test scores that show that you're college ready. This SAT, there's back to the 3-digit scores. At one point before March of last year, they were breaking down the 3-digit of reading and writing into a 2-digit reading score and a 2-digit writing score, but that has gone away. If students tested in the past, they could use both of these, but now they're going back to just the 3-digit code. Gold Seal Vocational Award may be used at post-secondary institutions that offer any applied technology or technical degree education programs, such as an Associate of Science or Applied Science. It will not pay towards the completion of an Associate of Arts or a baccalaureate degree. So it's not going to pay for a 4-year degree. It will only pay for the 2-year associate's degree. And remember when I said associate, you have to think 2-year state college or the 2-year program at the state college. The difference between an Associate of Science and Associate of Applied Science and the Associate of Arts is very specific. The Associate of Arts is basically a general education program with a couple of courses in the major that you want to study, with other courses like psychology and sociology, world religion, art appreciation, a well-rounded education that you're going to transfer for your next 2 years. And in those next 2 years is when you're going to learn about the major that you actually want to study. The Associate of Science and Applied Science is a workforce-ready degree. It is designed to give you all the skills that you need to go directly into the workforce. I always use myself as an example. My first degree is an Associate of Science in Landscape Technology, and all I took was landscape classes. plant identification, plant propagation, soils and fertilizers, irrigation, landscape design, landscape maintenance, landscape business. When I got done and said, I like this, I want to continue my education, let me get a business degree to apply my plant knowledge, they're like, sorry, you need an associate of science to be able to transfer. Associate of arts. And at the time, I just thought landscaping, plants, plant science, but it's a very specific program. And this will only pay for the science program. It will not pay if a student says they're going for an associate of arts degree. So it's the lesser of the awards and it's the most specific of the awards. The evaluation process and award notification. There are 2 evaluation periods. They do an early evaluation mid-senior year. And that's basically January 31st. What did you have in place January 31st? We're going to evaluate you on that. And then they do a final evaluation at the time the student graduates, but they're actually going to do a final because if they're allowing you to test through August 31st, they will do a final evaluation at that time. And you get to keep whichever award you qualify for. So if in that early evaluation, you qualify for the highest award, you have that locked in as long as you graduate high school. Some people think, oh, it's only a select few that get it or whatever. As long as you do you've done the Florida financial aid application, and which gives them permission to evaluate you, and you graduate, you get the award. So maybe mid-year you qualify for the Gold Seal Vocational, or you qualify for Florida Medallion. You still have the rest of your senior year through August 31st to try and meet that highest award. And the schools are submitting the transcripts within the timely fashion. This shows you an example of the report of my students at McCatter. What the terminology up here is the Florida Academic. Currently, and this was as of March 17th, I have 20 students that qualify for the Florida Academic, 26 for the Florida Medallion, 3 for the Gold Seal Cape, and 31 for the Gold Seal Vocational. We're at a different school at another border high school. These numbers might not be the same, but our numbers are a little skewed because being a 100% magnet school, we don't have students with less than a 2.5, and most of the students had to have 50th percentile test scores in order to come in. So they're going to be testing better and getting higher awards, but every school is going to get a summary similar to this. And that shows that was based on our early evaluation, which the early evaluation will review any coursework through 7th semester and the in progress. They will see that you're taking a course and they're going to assume that you're going to finish that course. So they will award it even if you haven't finished all of your English credits. And service hours through that date of January 31st and any test scores taken through January 31st will be that first evaluation. The final evaluation will include all of your required coursework. GPA will be recalculated, service hours completed by the date established by the public schools. That is graduation date. You have to earn your service hours by the time you graduate, but you do have through August 31st of your senior year to complete your testing. Let's see. Students are responsible for keeping track of their information. I've had all of my students complete their Florida financial aid application, but if something changes, maybe they change their address, they have to go back in and adjust that in their application. Mostly, I would say when I had students complete their Florida financial aid application, they listed the school that they thought they might want to attend. But maybe that school is different by the time they graduate. They want to go to a different school. The student has to tell Bright Futures where to send the money. And the student must have their Social Security number in their Florida financial aid application in order for their money to match at the school level. So a student can say, send my money to UCF. If they do not have their Social Security number on their FFAA, Bright Futures will say, or UCF, will say, sorry, I don't see any money for you. Because Bright Futures is going to send their list to the university. The university is going to pull everything in and match it by social. And if there's not a social there, it doesn't match. So it's very important for students, once they've done the FFAA, to go back and make sure that they've listed the correct school and their social security number is in there. This is the tricky part that I'm not so sure of is IB ACE diplomas. I would advise any student that is going to a school with IB or ACE diplomas, talk to your counselors there. They're probably better versed than in this than I know they're better versed than I am. You could also refer back to that first homepage that I showed you that will explain how to meet the criteria for that. But you definitely have to do your FFAA. Everybody has to do the FFAA prior to August 31st, or they do not receive any awards. Florida academic scholars attending a public institution will receive an award to cover 100% of tuition and fees. This money can be used at a private school, but what they're going to do is say 100% tuition to a Florida-based four-year university is equivalent to about $6,300. You will get $6,300 towards your private school's tuition. You are not going to get the 100% of the private school's tuition. You just get what you would have received had you gone to a public institution. Florida Medallion scholars pay 75% tuition to a four-year university, or it will pay 100% tuition to our 28 state or community colleges. That was something that went into effect in 2021. So if you are Florida Medallion and you go to Broward College for 2 years, you get 100% tuition paid for. And then if you do four-year university after that, you might want to stay at Broward College and do it for full 4 years if they have the program that you want. But if you did 2 years plus 2 years, you would get 100% tuition for the first 2 years and 75% tuition for the next 2 years. 75% tuition of a four-year university is about $4,700. So this talks about the money chart. You get a certain dollar amount per credit hour, but that's how it translates out. It would be the same as if you were taking a public institution. And again, this I got right off of that handbook that I had originally talked about. So the Florida financial aid application. This is your Bright Futures. I refer to it as a Bright Futures authorization. I don't say application, but it is an application. As you can see here, there are, I don't know how many, what would be 10, 15 or so state grants and scholarship programs that this one application covers. So this is where you would go to complete the new Florida financial aid application. You would click on or create the student account and you would start the process. Bright Futures is just one of these. Any student that is Hispanic, you will trigger the Jose Marti scholarship. They will ask you what country you're from, and there's certain countries that it applies to and others that it doesn't. But that's one thing to be evaluated for. And that's one of the scholarship or grants that the evaluation has to be done by today. So if you don't have the application in, you want to do that right away. There's a few other scholarships like Rosewood and Ocoee, and some seem like you don't know where they come from, but if you know the history of Rosewood, it was a very racially motivated incident where an entire town was wiped out. And as a way of giving back, same with Ocoee, as a way of giving back, those family members they receive scholarship money. So that's just one of the many Florida grants and scholarships that a student's reviewed for through the FFAA. So the application opened on October 1st and it will close August 31st of 25. I did this wrong. It opened October 1st of 24. I updated this. My apologies. It opened October 1st of 24 and it will close August 31st of 25 for my current seniors. These will be the dates for my juniors. The FFAA cannot be completed after August 31st, after the graduation. And today you could see here the Jose Marti, the Rosewood scholarships for children of spouses of deceased and disabled veterans, farm workers, and the Ocoee scholarship grants. Today's the last day for that. This scholarship for the children and spouses of deceased and disabled veterans, there's a lot of information that you need from your parents' military career. So that's not a quick and easy thing to fill out, but you must do the FFAA ahead of time. I think you could probably come back and fill in those other details, but I'm not 100% sure of that. So the FFAA is actually a two-step process, and they've finally got it really smooth now, where the student does their basic demographic information, and then it automatically forwards to the actual application. In the past, students would do their part, hit submit, think they were done, when all they had really done is started the account. Now, Bright Futures waits, I think, 15 seconds. You do your student account, they have you check everything. One thing I should point out on this, there's a lot of pop-ups. Those pop-ups are for important information. If you type in your birth date, there's going to be a pop-up that says, check and make sure that your date of birth is correct. When you put in your social, same thing. It's because if you don't have that information incorrectly, your accounts aren't going to match. So stop and make sure that what you've entered is correct. I will tell you, this year I had 4 students who listed their birthday incorrectly. So stop and look before you just hit submit and move on. But now the FFA automatically moves you on to the second part, where it's asking the specific questions about the Rosewood family, the Jose Marti, and all of that. This I pulled up today because this is also something that I'm not extremely familiar with, because at McFadder, we don't have mid-year graduates, but I know other schools have it. So mid-year graduates can receive money for the spring of after they graduate. If they graduate in January, they can use this money in the spring, but they have to do the FFAA by December 31st. So if you're a current senior and you didn't do this, you could not receive money in the spring because that December 31st has already passed. But if you are a junior watching this and you're thinking about graduating mid-year, pay attention to this date so that you can receive funding mid-year. And if for some reason afterwards down at the bottom, it says if a student does not graduate mid-year as planned or wishes to wait until the end of the year after they graduate, they just have to submit a new application that opens in October. So this is the website to go to for the Florida Financial Aid application. It's Florida Student Financial Aid SG.org, which SG stands for state grant.org. You could call the customer service. And if for some reason you're having problems, I've had a couple students that, like I said, with the birth date, and they don't know how to log back in and that, then you could also call them and they could walk you through the whole steps there. So also, Bright Futures is one financial aid application or one way to earn money for college. There's also FAFSA, which is federal money. There's post-secondary institution have plenty of money. Broward College has a plethora of opportunities for students who apply and complete a FAFSA. So there's so many, and all different schools have opportunities. So there are other places to look for money besides Bright Futures and besides federal money. There's other scholarship foundations. A lot of scholarships are going to be looking for key factors: GPA, test score, community service, leadership, financial need, maybe an underrepresented population, maybe a special talent. There's so many different things that scholarships look for. These are the websites that I tell my students to look at to try and find money. And the scholarship search should begin now, regardless of what grade level you're in. There are scholarships that can apply to you as early as a 9th grader. Not as many as you're going to see as a senior, but they're still available. I love Zello. It's a great resource for many things. But our Zello scholarship program allows the district to enter Broward County and South Florida specific scholarships, in addition to the national scholarships that are listed there. But then you also have the Broward County specific. For example, there's a Broward Alliance for Caribbean Educators. or Broward Alliance of Caribbean Educators for students and families that were born in the Caribbean. That's listed in Zello. You might not find that at another national database. Raise.me is another great resource. It's basically like building an online resume, and you'd start documenting things. The first thing I would do is look at Raise.me and see what schools are participating with Raise.me. Right now, I know FAU and FIU are two local schools that participate. There's a lot of out of state, there's a lot of private. New York University participates with Raise.me. And basically all the student is doing is going in and listing things like how many AP courses they've taken, how many A's they've earned, did they go on a campus tour? All these little things can earn micro scholarships, which then can benefit the student in the end. And I looked the other day, if a student goes to, in most of these things, it would be through my senior year of high school. But if a student is planning on going to state college first and then transferring, Raise.me can continue through your state college years as well. Going Mary, I absolutely love. It's a national database. It's a huge national database. But the benefit of Going Mary is that most of the time there is one application similar to a Common App for college applications. You complete one application and you reuse it multiple times. You can store letters of recommendation. You could store essays. And then you've also, between Zello and Going Mary, you're going to build your personal profile saying that you're male, you're female, what your GPA is, if you have any ethnic history or things like that. And then it's going to trigger scholarships. But because I have everything in this one spot, I just keep reusing the documents over and over again. The first application might take a while, but after that, maybe it takes 15 minutes, 30 minutes to complete an application. Another website that I'll remind all my students to use is the College Board Big Future. I think all grade levels, with the exception maybe ninth grade, can go on there, and you do different activities. And it's all activities that you're going to do for the college application process. It's researching careers, researching colleges, researching scholarships, refining your college list, applying for FAFSA, applying for a college. Every time you do one of these activities, your name gets thrown in a pot, and it's a random lottery drawing, just like bingo, right? You don't know if your name's going to get pulled or not. If your family makes less than $60,000 a year, your name gets put in twice for every activity you complete. And then after you do that activity, every month until whatever the deadline date is for that activity, for example, the college list, the first one, you have through June 30th of your junior year to complete that activity. If you do that activity now, you're going to have April drawing, May drawing, and June drawing. So you have 3 opportunities. And if you're lower income, you get your name in twice. So that's 6 opportunities to have your name selected randomly. And every month, College Board gives hundreds of students a $500 scholarship. And every month, 2 students are selected for a $40,000 scholarship. McFatter has had multiple $500 awardees, and Deerfield Beach had a student win the $40,000 scholarship. So it's definitely worth your time. I put out a weekly email to my students through Zello. Other schools probably have a Brace weekly email or some way of getting information out. Pay attention to your Brace advisors or anybody who sends you information. Read it to see what's pertinent to you. I would check with post-secondary institutions, because sometimes you're automatically reviewed for scholarships, and other times you have to specifically apply. So don't miss out on opportunities that are there for you. This just shows the Zello where you find it. You go to goals and plans, college planning, and then click on local scholarships, and it shows you a list of scholarships there. Some things that in the Broward Education Foundation, actually today is the deadline. They may extend it. So if you're a senior and you haven't done these applications, do them tonight. But Broward Education Foundation is one of the easiest applications that you could ever apply for. They also manage a few other scholarships like the I-Coast, City of Sunrise. Also, destination dorm. If you're a family with low income and you're going away to four-year university, you absolutely need to do that destination dorm. It will give you the sheets and the comforter and the pillows and all of the things that you need to set up a dorm room. And here's some other ones that you could look for. The Hispanic Scholarship Fund. There are so many scholarships for Hispanics. Raise.me, I mentioned. And then the Going Merry, similar to the Common App for scholarships. This is my student list. How many applications are started, submitted? You could look, where's a good example here? This student started 2 applications, has submitted 12, and has 347 more that they're eligible for. It is just a wealth of information. Other places to look, check with your parents' employers. If they work for a city, if they work for American Express or Memorial Hospital System, chances are there's a scholarship that you could apply for. Check with the city that you live in. I've gone through a Hallandale, Sunrise, Plantation. I believe there was a Lauderhill. There's so many. Check with your cities. Your religious community might have a scholarship. Ask around and exhaust your options when applying for scholarships. Apply whether it's a $200 award or $25,000 award, because most scholarships are stackable. Very seldom do you get a full ride scholarship that covers everything. It's stacking them that earns you the money. And every year there are scholarships that go unclaimed. So take the time. I always tell my students, because I've heard this 26 years, I've heard this so many times. I don't want to complete that application because it's only $200 and I have to write an essay and that's not worth my time. And I will argue to you that it is absolutely worth your time, because the reality is it probably will not take you even 3 hours to complete that application packet. And if you could get paid $200 for 3 hours of your time, that's a wonderful hourly wage. And if I use all of those same documents another time, it probably won't take me any more than 30 minutes. So it is worth your time regardless. And there's probably not a lot of people applying for it because they consider it to be too little money. So I did a lot of talking. What questions do we have?
First of all, can we thank Bridget? She gave us so much information. I'm following along because I got a little one. He's actually sitting right next to me. And thank you so much, Bridget, for all the information. We do have tons of questions. I'm going to go through some of them. I think you kind of answered the ones that talk about like when they're going to get the money, but I'm going to ask one of those questions so we can kind of blanket everything else.
Okay.
So the this is kind of the general question here. When will I know how much aid I'm getting?
So depending on when you meet the criteria, right? If you qualified mid-year, we've already done a draw. You could go to your high school's either brace advisor, or the brace advisor should all have access to this, or your guidance counselor at your high school, and ask them if they could look up your Bright Futures evaluation and see what you qualify for. If you've already done your Florida financial aid application, you can log back into that and see what you've qualified for. And as long as you have met the criteria and you end up graduating, that is your money. But you have to make sure, again, that your Social Security is in there so that the school will match it to your account. So it might be now you know what you qualify for, or it might be after graduation. And that reminds me, so if you're getting a Florida school, you've applied to the Florida school, you've sent them the FAFSA, and they give you a financial aid award letter, it's very possible that they've already listed what they think your Bright Futures qualifications would have been. So they might have guessed at it, but it's not a guarantee until Bright Futures releases that money. Did that
Thank
answer the
you.
question?
So I'm going to check the responses down low. Before I do that, I have another one for you. This is kind of specific, but I think other attendees may be wondering the same thing. My daughter is taking Cambridge classes. Is the application process the same to apply for Bright Futures?
So this is where I'm not familiar with Cambridge, but I think it's the same as ACE and IB. And yes, you do the Florida financial aid application as early as October 1st of the student's senior year. I think everybody should do it. Even if they're planning on going out of state, have this in place just in case you come back to the state of Florida or in case you don't ever leave the state of Florida. So, Cambridge, yes, it's my understanding that their diploma will probably alleviate the need for test scores, but don't quote me on that. Bright Futures will be the right, Tallahassee will be the right person to tell you about that. But yes, you can apply. You apply as early as October 1st or after October 1st of your senior year.
Okay, now we have questions from one or two individuals, and they've posted several questions. So Raquel, what I'm going to do is have you unmute towards the end of Q&A, because you've asked a lot of questions, and I want to make sure you may have some more need for like an intimate session here, maybe one-on-one stuff. But let me get to a few other questions before we get to you, if that's okay. Here goes a question. I'm new to Florida. If I qualify for any of the award categories, will I also need to apply for that award? Or does qualification equal award?
So you're doing a blanket application, the Florida Financial Aid application, and you will be reviewed for all of the awards and you will be offered the highest award you qualify for. So you're not applying for an award, a specific award, you're applying for Bright Futures, and they're going to match you to the highest award you qualify for.
All right. By the way, Bridget, you're getting some love in the chat. Thank you. This is very informative. Thanks. Oh my goodness, great presentation. Here, let me ask another one, and then you okay there, pal? He's drinking his milk really fast. Okay, so here's another question. Uh, if I receive a Bright Future scholarship, what happens to my prepaid? And I get that question a lot with other scholarships.
So that's a great thing. Florida Prepaid, they will send you a code and you're going to tell them what school that you're going to, and they're going to send the money to that school. They will accept all, and Bright Futures will send your money to the school. The school will collect all of the money and use it as it's needed. So Bright Futures money is paying for a tuition dollar amount, but if your Florida Prepaid covers your tuition, then Bright Futures money can be used for your housing because it just went to a bank account and it got merged with all the other money, if that makes sense. So it's like if I have two different jobs, my money comes in from the different places, and now I start paying my bills. It didn't matter where that money originated as long as I'm paying my bills with it. And if you don't need your Florida Prepaid for some reason, then you could hold on to it. You could pass it on to somebody else. But if you have everything else covered, you don't need to touch Florida Prepaid. That would be ideal. But they will take both funds.
Okay, and yes, this presentation will be available on the Bridge to Life YouTube channel. I'm actually going to unmute a few individuals now. Sherry Broughton, I'm going to unmute you. Oh no, actually, wait, that we answered that question. Raquel, I'm going to unmute you as well as. Oh, and Dr. Lucretia Cooper's on. Hey, Dr.
Dr.
Cooper.
Cooper.
Uh, I'm going to unmute Raquel. Let me see. Let me unmute Raquel. And hopefully you can talk, Raquel, because I'm going to allow you to speak now. So Raquel, please ask your question or questions. And then I think there's one other person on here that had a question. I want to make sure they get a chance to speak as well. But Raquel, the floor is yours. Oh, Raquel, are you able to speak? Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna unmute Sue in the time being. So Sue, if you don't mind asking your question. Okay, you all are unmuted, but I'm not hearing you. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'll read Sue's question. So for some reason we can't hear you. Maybe it's a setting that I'm not, should be able to talk. All right, so Sue asked, if my child is doing the Broward 2 for Broward 2 program, I think that's 2 plus 2.
2+2.
Which school do I send the Bright Futures to?
You would send it to the school that he's attending, which would be Broward College. And then when he transfers, if it's a 4-year scholarship that he's awarded, then when he transfers, you tell him to transfer it to the next school and they'll receive it for the next 2 years. And something I wanted to point out, I was just thinking about this prior to that question, Tron, was I had a student a couple years ago. She got into some great schools. She got into UF and FSU, but decided to stay at Broward College for their Honors Institute, which I'm going to tell you is a great program. Not only was she part of the Honors Institute, she received the ERMS Scholar Award, which paid for her first 2 years. One day she was checking her bank account and she found an extra $3,000 in her bank account. And that was because the Bright Futures money got sent to Broward College, but Broward College didn't need it because everything was paid for. So she got to keep that $3,000. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
And Raquel, we can hear you now. So go on ahead and ask your first question or a few questions.
Yeah, just give me 1 second because I got logged out and I can't find my questions anymore because I was just writing them off on top of my head. Is there any way you can see my questions or
I could
can I
go
type
through a
in
little bit
something?
and see. How can I figure out my GPA for certain classes that require GPA? Oh, for the Gold Seal vocational specific, there is a
Yeah.
course code table that you can look up. It's not something easy that I could explain to you through this webinar. It would be like you would need somebody to walk you through it, but there is a list of course codes. It's called the Comprehensive Course Code Table. You could pull up by technical program and it will show you courses that trigger that award. And then you would know to pull those courses or pull those grades. And of course, that's unweighted. So you would need 2 A's and a B in those 3 credits.
I just found it.
Okay.
Yeah, I found it. All right. Also another question was that what certifications do I know would be qualified for the Gold Seal Vocational? Like which ones are qualified and how many points do they have?
That's another one that you have to look on. There's a table that shows that. I don't have the link readily available, but there is a table that shows the industry certifications. I mentioned I've been doing this job at McFadden for 26 years, and I'm still not familiar with all of the industry certifications and how many credits are earned through them. And the Gold Seal Cape is the newest of the awards, so it's still kind of confusing. A lot of students think because they were in a technical program, all they need is that, and then they could get the Gold Seal Cape, and it's not. I mentioned before, my culinary department, the students take Serve Safe. That's 3 credits. That's the only one that they're getting in their culinary department. But maybe they have Microsoft, which they did in middle school, perhaps, and that gave them 2 credits. Now that's your 5 industry certification credits that you need. So I don't have a list. There is a list. I'd have to look it up and try and find that for you.
Please, if you can find it, and is there any way you can send that to me, that information?
I will try. Is there a way for us to reach back out to them, Tron?
Yes, yeah, we have their contact information, so we can share out. And someone wants to know if they can have the PowerPoint as well.
Sure, I could share that. I could send it to you and then you could share it out.
Absolutely.
Okay. The FFAA, I know somebody asked that question. I think you asked that. It's the Florida Financial Aid application. So it's the one that covers Bright Futures and many other scholarships. And Raquel, I see that you asked about if the school or the military pays for your education and you're awarded a scholarship, do you get to keep it for your own personal use? That's like I was saying, the one student, she had all of her Broward College paid for. And when her Bright Futures money came in, she just got to keep all of that herself. Military might be a different thing because that would be kind of double dipping. I don't know that you get to keep the extra when you're with the military. But if your education's paid for, it's paid for. So it doesn't matter about getting the extra money, I would think at that point. I don't know. Is there any other questions that I need to cover?
No, I think we went through them all. If you receive refugees, military pays for it. I think we got it. Let's see. Do we have any other questions in the chat? Doesn't look like we
Dr.
do.
Cooper, did you link where it shows the technical, the industry certification? Is that what that link is? Or no, that's just the Gold Seal Cape. Never mind. Okay, she says yes. Yeah, that doesn't show the list of the courses though. Oh, here, maybe CAPE certifications. Oh, there you go. The active articulation agreement summary is right there. I don't know if you could see what I just clicked on, but it is on the page that she's listed. All right, any other questions? I can stop sharing.
We have a question from Hilda. Hilda, I've given you the opportunity to speak now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You said that a copy of this PowerPoint is available?
I'm going to share it with Tron and you can share it out. Yes.
Okay, well, Tron, I would like a copy of my, because I took a lot of pictures, but it would be good to have it in one place.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can send that to my email, I would appreciate it.
I will send that to you at no charge.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. And if anyone has any questions, if you want to just raise your hand, there's a raise hand feature at the bottom. I'll see that and give you the opportunity to speak. We have Bridget for another, I don't know, another 3 hours, I think, Bridget, is what we signed up for.
Yeah, well, I'm still waiting for my dinner. So while we're waiting for it to come.
Okay. M. Williams, you now have the option to speak.
Hi, my son applied, I think, to FFAA. That's the one with the Rosewood. And you
Yes.
mentioned that he's a senior, he would already know if if he's eligible for Bright Futures.
He should be able to log into his Florida financial aid application and see what his eligibility status is at this point. But he could also go to his either brace advisor or counselor at the school and ask them to pull up his evaluation report.
Okay. And then that evaluation report will show which scholarship he's eligible for.
Correct. It will show the whole printout of for Florida academic scholars. It'll show you the courses and the grades, and then they'll say, okay, his recalculated GPA is whatever, 3.87, and for Florida Medallion, 3.87, and then what it is for Gold Seal. They have it all filled out, and then it will say whether you qualify as Gold Seal Cape and they call it a potential award. It's a potential award. You qualify for that, and you will get the award if you complete the FFAA and you graduate high school. That's the potential part of it. But until they've graduated, it's going to be potential.
So what was the FAFSA for? Because I think he did that too. Was that part of becoming
The
eligible?
FAFSA is for federal money. So the FAFSA looks at total family income, household size, and a few other things. And then they calculate the amount of need a student might have, and then try and match as much federal aid, whether it be grants, work study, or loans, gift aid, borrowed aid, or earned aid. That's what the FAFSA will determine. The students take their FAFSA report and send it to the schools that they've been offered admission to or have applied to. And then each of those schools will use that money. So the school or your student might say, okay, I've gotten this money from the federal government. Now let me send it to XYZ University. They'll look at that and see if I still have unmet need. Maybe my Bright Futures money comes in there too. And then the school says, oh, we could still offer them this dollar amount. So they're trying to get it down to zero, but it's from different entities.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then how do you know on the FAFSA how much money, or on either one, FFAA, how much he's gotten? You said because
The FFAA will tell the award amount that he qualify, or the award level that he qualifies for. And then if you go to the main page, it will show you a dollar amount per credit hour that you will get. But basically the for Florida Gold Seal Vocational and Gold Seal Cape, it's going to pay a dollar amount per credit hour. And I don't have that memorized. I think it's like $48 per credit hour that you would get there. For Gold Seal Medallion, it pays 75% of what it would cost to go to a Florida institution. It's still broken down by dollar amount, but overall, if you're a full-time student at a Florida-based private or Florida-based public school, four-year university, you're probably looking at like $4,700 for the Florida Medallion, and the Florida Academic would give you $6,300.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Do we have more questions, Tron?
We do. We have, well, yes, everyone, you're going to receive the PowerPoint presentation. I'll send that out to you. If not tonight, then tomorrow morning. And someone said, okay, let's see. We have one other person that wants to be unmuted. Let's see here. Okay, and I don't want to mispronounce your name. I think that's Hernandez is the last name. I'll just play it safe.
Jatsu.
Yeah, Josué Hernandez. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so bear with me so far because I'm a slower person on the technology. So currently I completed my Florida financial aid application,
Mhm.
and after on the Jose Marti scholarship that you mentioned, because I'm a Venezuelan, so
Mhm.
they gave me the PDF. So my question is just to double check. If I get my Florida financial aid application already and my FAFSA already, I am automatically part of the Jose Marti scholarship, or there is another page that I must visit to qualify?
So not everybody gets the Jose Marti. If you meet the qualifications for Bright Futures and you've done the application, you get Bright Futures. Jose Marti is an application that all students get evaluated for, and then they select some of those students. I don't know how many. It's a pretty competitive program, but the fact that you're Hispanic allows you to be reviewed for that. And then one of the things they ask you is, if you won this award, would you give us permission to take your photos and, advertise you? And I was like, you want to give me money, you could take my picture. But that was the other piece. You're not guaranteed that you're getting the Jose Marti. You're being reviewed for it.
Okay, so after my Florida financial aid application, I am automatically available to review to apply for this scholarship. Is that
They're
right?
gonna review you for Jose Marti. You will have triggered that because you answered yes, you're Hispanic, and Venezuela was one of the countries.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Raquel asked a similar question about how does she prove that her parents are born in a Hispanic country. You don't have to prove it. They ask the question, you say yes, you choose the country, and especially if both parents are Hispanic from different countries, you're like, which country do I use? One, it doesn't matter. You don't have to use all of them. It's just the fact that you're Hispanic from one of the countries that they look at allows you to be reviewed for that award.
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised. Let's see. Ansala Lee says, when you complete the FFAA application, do you send that information to the school? Yeah, okay, so we got that one. That's a yes. And then she's also asked about the ineligibility. Raquel says, if it says ineligible, please see your counselor or brace advisor. Okay, to review your evaluation. Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any other new questions.
And Tron,
Yes.
Sorry, that was in response to Raquel's previous question.
Okay.
She received the response and the login saying that she's ineligible. So please see your counselor or your brace advisor to go over your evaluation report so that you can figure out what area you have not met for the FAA application.
The other thing I'm wondering, and Dr. Cooper, you might have, because you read the question, I might be misinterpreting it, is maybe she's saying that she's not eligible. If you've already completed the FFAA once and you try to do another one, you're going to say that you're not able to complete it. So if it's, I'm not sure, Raquel, if you're saying that you're not eligible for a scholarship, or are you saying that you're not able to complete the FFAA? But like Dr. Cooper said, you should be able to go to your counselor and ask them to pull up your evaluation, and they will see whether you completed the FFAA or not, and they will see what may be keeping you from qualifying for one of the awards. Oh, you know what? I just realized too, I mentioned about the Hispanic Scholars program. If somebody is a Hispanic Scholar awardee, they have to find the email that College Board sent them that says, congratulations, you won the National Hispanic Recognition Award. And you have to send in the certificate. And you go to that same Bright Futures homepage. At the bottom, it says upload documents, or document upload. And then you upload those and send them to Bright Futures. Your school may handle it themselves. It just depends how every school does it. But the way to alleviate the need for meeting test score requirements, and it only applies to the National Merit or Hispanic awardees, then you have to send in those documents. So Raquel, yes, it's April 1st, but you have to April 1st to do that document. So you could still do the FFAA after today, but if you want to be evaluated for those programs, then it needs to be done by April 1st. And I think I know why you're asking this now. Maybe you already did your FFAA. You might want to call up, let me see if I could pull up the email or the phone number, 888-827-2004, I think is what it is. You might want to call Tallahassee and ask them to walk you through if there is a reason why you can't complete it. So yeah, the customer service for Bright Futures is 888-827-2004. All right.
Okay, I don't see any new questions, and we're 15 minutes after the hour. So I'm going to, at this point, stop the recording. Thank everybody for attending. And as promised,